Hello, everyone. I am Shayla L. Bennett, and this is 5 Minute Motivation. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. So, we've been talking about communication, and we started with the series What to Do with Your Feelings. How do you process your feelings? And it has really been so much more than I ever could have imagined. And I am so excited about where we've been able to go on this journey. We've been able to talk about identifying our feelings and not covering them up and really getting to a place where we move through the process of our feelings. And then when things don't go the way you want them to, how do you respond? What do you do? What steps do you take? And I really thought it was going to be like, one, then maybe a couple of days, then maybe been a few days, okay, then a whole week. And it's been 2 whole weeks, but it's been a fabulous 2 whole weeks. So I hope that you get an opportunity to listen to this whole series. This has been absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so glad that I got a chance to walk through it with you. Today, I am going to give you another fabulous resource. This book is called What to Do on the Worst Day of Your Life. This book was recommended to me by someone I greatly, greatly admire. He's not just someone within my personal hemisphere, but nationally, he is just an amazing person and nationally recognized. And when he talked about this book, he actually talked about it in a time that I was going through one of the greatest challenges that I had faced up until that point. And I really needed a resource about how to walk through life's challenges. A lot of people tell you to tough it up and just, hang in there. All you got to do is just power through. And sometimes that's just not enough. It's not enough to be strong. It's not enough to be strong enough. It's not enough to be fierce enough. It's not enough to just power forward. When you've done everything you know to do, when you've exhausted every possible resource, sometimes you have to go back to step one. And this is what this book helped me to do. This book made it okay for me first to have emotions, to identify those emotions, to cry if I needed to. And some people might find that very hard to digest, but here's the truth. When you are generally the strong person, most people don't expect you to cry. They don't really expect you to be upset. They really don't expect you to express the difficult emotions of a tough and challenging time. They think the outward, happy, outgoing person that they see is always that person. But that's not always the case. And so this resource, What to Do on the Worst Day of Your Life, make sure I get it in good lighting so you can see it. And it's by Brian Zahnd, and I will make sure that I put this in our book, in our toppings there, in our title there. It really helps you walk through the entire process. It talks about crying if you need to cry, but it also tells you how to begin to celebrate once you've made it through to the other side. It's not enough to just be tough. It's not enough to just be strong, and you don't have to be. As a matter of fact, you probably shouldn't be. This is what you should do. You should, in fact, identify the emotions that you have and then walk through the process of those emotions. After you've done that, figure out what direction it is that you do need to go, what steps you do need to take, and then come up with a plan to carry those actions out. After you've come up with a plan, decide where, when, and how you're going to actually enact that plan. Reading this book really helped me to do what I do, I would say, almost automatically, naturally, but in a time of crisis or challenge or difficulty, you can't always think through that process. Not everybody thinks like me. And for those people, this book is really great because it helps you literally say, okay, first I'm going to do this, and then second I'm going to do this, and third I'm going to do this. So let me just highlight a couple of things that Mr. Zahnd highlights. So he says, on the worst day of your life, sometimes the first thing you need to do is weep. Sometimes you just need to have a good cry. I have had times where I really, now, judge me if you want to, but there are times that I've really missed my mom, because when I cry, there are times I really just want to crawl into my mom's lap and boo my eyes out. That was my safe place. That was my safe haven. That was the place that I could do that. I generally didn't do it often, but if I needed to, that was why I did it. When my mom passed away, I was like, okay, so how do I handle this now? Well, in generally, I just bottled it up. But he freed me in a way, because I figured out you can still weep. You can still cry. You can still have whatever emotion you need to. Then journaling for me was my next step, because I needed to not just cry the immediate emotional feeling out, but now I needed to have a way of being able to process the thought, the intent, the feeling, the of the emotion out, because that's the way Shayla processes. You have to figure out how you process and process it. So he talks about that. Don't get bitter. Get angry, be frustrated, be disappointed, but don't get bitter. Bitterness is not the same as all the other ones. Bitterness, it gets deep in you, and you start looking at other people sideways because of how you feel about the situation you've encountered. As I walked through this literally just broke up all of those things and allowed for me to be able to move through life much more effectively than I had before, with bottling up and keeping close things that were really just hurting me. So I encourage you to get Mr. Zahn's book. I will put in his top 10 steps of what to do on the worst day of your life. But believe you me, you don't want to just hear the highlights. You want to read the book. This is one of the shortest books you will ever read. But it is probably one of the most impactful. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for 5-Minute Motivation. I hope you are motivated to make today an amazing day, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye, guys.